Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I hope everyone is keeping wonderfully well. A lot of club action to run through this weekend, of course, here on the channel. Of course, a lot of club action happening this weekend in both hurling and football. Predominantly hurling action this weekend, a whole host of hurling games. Looking at the Leinster semi-finals, the Ulster semi-final is in there as well, Munster semi-final. So plenty of hurling action to run through today, to discuss, to break down, to preview and to predict, of course, as always on the channel. And just the one football game to run through. We'll be discussing that towards the end of the video. Mountbellew, Moylough will be taking on Padraig Pearses. That game has been refixed for this weekend. It was supposed to take place a couple of weekends ago, but of course, Mountbellew, Moylough had the a bit of a COVID outbreak in their camp. So that game got refixed for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, which of course is this weekend. So yeah, thanks anyone who is tuning in as always. If you could leave a like and subscribe, let me know down in the comments below your predictions for some of this weekend's club games. And yeah, feel free to interact with myself there on the comments in the live stream and let me know your different thoughts and whatnot. And just a reminder, this video or this podcast is brought to you by Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star, brilliant book for children, of course, especially at this time of the year, coming up close to Christmas. A perfect gift for your niece or nephew, of course, coming up to this very busy time for Christmas. And the great news is you can purchase it online as well in the description down below. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Easons as well. Of course, written by top-selling author and GAA coach Michael Egan. So make sure you go and check that out. Big supporters of the channel, big supporters of the page as well. And they often help out as much as they can along the way. So I'd very much appreciate it if you can check it out. Declan Kirby GAA Star down in the description down below. But I suppose without further ado, let's crack on with the club action. And you know, we're moving into a very busy time of the year now, aren't we? In the club action and the club season previews and whatnot. I mean, there's definitely a lot of club action to run through, a lot of big games to run through, a lot of big talking points to run through. And I suppose the first game really to look at is Clough Ballacolla versus Kilmacud Crokes. Now, if you do hear some noise in the background, I haven't got anyone locked up there or anything like that. Just a bit of yeah, you know, a bit of construction work or whatever going on there behind my house. So do bear with me along with that one. But hopefully the you know, you can hear me all good and we can run through these previews as normal. So Clough Ballacolla versus Kilmacud Crokes. You know, an interesting game in many ways, because I suppose Clough Ballacolla, having come through that test of Rapparees, you know, going into that game, I actually fancied Rapparees originally to get the victory. Rapparees were looking very, very good in Wexford. They were, you know, very dynamic, very attacking style of hurling, very good at getting forward. You know, 6 goals, for example, in the Wexford hurling final. They were looking very, very good, and they were looking very impressive, to be fair to them. You know, Clough Ballacolla or Rapparees, I should say. And going into that game against Clough Ballacolla, aside from Laois, that I didn't really know a whole deal about, but by God, I certainly knew a good bit about them by the end of this game, because they certainly did really, really impress. And, you know, it was really in that second half when they kicked on and dominated. And Stephen Picky-Maher with one of the goals of the year, you'd have to say, in that game versus Rapparees. A lovely flick lob over the goalkeeper. And, you know, a lot of county players in there as well, like Willie Dunphy. Willie Hyland looks very impressive as well. You've got Owen Doyle in defence as well, who loves to do a tremendous job in and around there as well. So, you know, to be fair to Clough Ballacolla, they're coming into this game with a bit of momentum, a bit of confidence after that win over Rapparees. But is this a step too far? Is this a hurdle too far? Maybe it is. You know, Kilmacud Crokes are probably the favourites to get to the Leinster final anyways, and they're probably top 3, top 4 teams in the country in terms of the All-Ireland, you know, Club Senior Hurling Championship sort of overview, if you want to say that. So, you know, Kilmacud Crokes are coming into this game in tremendous form. Ronan Hayes, you know, is in you know, the form of his life at the minute. Obviously getting that late goal against Nafina, carried on his form against Raharney in the last game. 5 goals for Kilmacud Crokes in that game. They seem to have really kicked on since winning that you know, Dublin club final against Nafina. So they're coming into this game with a lot of confidence. And, you know, the thing about Kilmacud Crokes, while they do have a top class hurler in Ronan Hayes, you've also got Alex Considine in there, Lorca McMullen, Fergal Whiteley does a tremendous job, you know, in behind that full forward line as well. So, like, Kilmacud Crokes have got a lot of very, very good players in there. And, you know, Clough Ballacolla, they were going up against a Rapparees side that in some ways were kind of dead on their feet, you know, in some respects, or light on their feet, maybe I should say, having not played a game since September. You know, their style of hurling would have been a lot more suited to summer rapparees as opposed to winter. Kilmacud Crokes have shown that they can mix it in both, and they obviously looked very good the last time out against Raharney and coming in with a lot of momentum themselves. So it will be interesting. I'd imagine the big focus for Kilmacud's defence will certainly be on Stephen Picky-Marr and trying to limit his influence in around that full forward position. Be interesting to see who picks him up in that defensive line. And I suppose on the flip side of things, could we see Owen Doyle picking up Ronan Hayes? I mean, that'd be interesting as well. I thought Clough Ballacolla did a very, very good job defensively against Rapparees last time around. But albeit Rapparees, as I said before, were a little bit flat coming into that game with not having played in quite a long time. So I'm going to go with Kilmacud Crokes to get the victory here. I think they'll have enough. I think they'll win it by 6 points. I think they're coming in with a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence. And, you know, they'll certainly not come into this game flat, in my opinion, like Rapparees did. They've obviously been playing consistently. And I think for Clough Ballacolla, this is probably a bit of a step up in terms of some of the teams they would have already played. But look, with club championships, you know, you could be wrong. You could be proved wrong in an instant. A lot of the time we are proved wrong with a lot of these games. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Kilmacud Crokes there to get the victory by 6 points. But long and behold, it could be an interesting one. You've got then St Rynaghs of Offaly going up against Ballyhale Shamrocks. I mean, this is an intriguing one because, to be fair to Ballyhale Shamrocks, they weren't exactly brilliant. They didn't exactly shoot the lights out against Mount Leinster Rangers. They won that game by a scoreline of 22 points to 16. The last game in the Leinster Club Hurling Championship that of course was at the weekend. So, you know, they didn't exactly shoot the lights out, and they had a tough test against O'Loughlin Gaels as well in the Kilkenny final. And look, we know the talent that Ballyhale have. I've said it on a numerous times before in terms of TJ Reid and Owen Cody, and, you know, you got experienced hurlers in there of Colin Fennelly and Joey Holden, and of course a young Evan Shefflin. You know, what a name to have there coming through the ranks as well. So, like, Ballyhale are going to be thereabouts. And I think for St Rynaghs, whilst I'm, you know, not the most experienced man to speak about Offaly hurling, you know, 3 in a row in Offaly is certainly, you know, not an easy thing. And I'm sure they will take a bit of confidence. They would have been watching in the wings and in many ways in that game versus Mount Leinster Rangers. And they certainly would have took some confidence from how they performed Mount Leinster Rangers. And, you know, on another day, maybe Mount Leinster Rangers could have came through that game. So I don't think St Rynaghs will fear Ballyhale. You know, maybe the fear factor for Ballyhale isn't quite there yet. The worrying part is, I suppose, for a lot of other counties, that Ballyhale have looked impressive, but there's still another gear that they can go up on. There's still another level that I think they can get to. And I think that will be the worry for teams like St Rynaghs, like Kilmacud Crokes, and like some of the sides maybe coming through Munster as well. So, you know, as I said before, we know what Ballyhale have, and St Rynaghs probably going under the radar. Like some of their top performers the last day out, when they beat Coolderry and won the Offaly Senior Hurling Championship for a third year in a row. Aidan Tracy, Stephen Quirk, Luke O'Connor were all very impressive that day. So, you know, there isn't any real notable inter-county stars that I can see on that St Rynaghs side. Certainly no players that would stand out for me. So you would have to surely fancy Ballyhale to come through this. They've had a tough test in O'Loughlin Gaels. They had a tough test in Mount Leinster Rangers. And, like, let's not get it mistaken. Like, O'Loughlin Gaels, very good side in Kilkenny. You know, Kilkenny hurling, probably, you know, the most competitive, maybe the best hurling championship there is out there. You know, Mount Leinster Rangers are a great side in Carlow. It wasn't too long ago that they, of course, came through Leinster themselves. So, you know, Mount Leinster Rangers are certainly no mug. So I think Ballyhale are going to click in this game. They're going to win it quite comfortably, in my opinion. I could be, you know, entirely wrong, and it could certainly be made to eat my words, but I'm going to go with Ballyhale Shamrocks to get the victory. I suppose we'll move on to the Munster semi-finals, and you've got two crunch games here. And the game I'm going to be most interested in, game taking place on TG Cahir on Sunday, Ballygunner versus Loughmore Castleiney. Ballygunner coming into this game with, a huge amount of energy, a huge amount of momentum following on from that demolition job over Ballyhale in the quarterfinals. They absolutely tore them to the sword. They ripped them to shreds. As I said before in my review when that game took place, if it had been a boxing match, it would have been stopped after a couple of minutes. The referee would have thrown in the towel. You know, the opposition corner would have thrown in the towel, because Ballygunner, you know, it looked night and day. It looked like men against boys. And that's not to discredit Ballyhale in any way whatsoever. Coming through Clare is no mean feat. And especially when you don't have your star man and Tony Kelly it's always going to be tough. And Ballygunner just show that their level's above. And when you look at some of the players on Ballygunner's side, Desi Hutchinson, Peter Hogan, Porrick Mahoney, Mikey O'Mahony, these kind of lads, like, they have a tremendous, and I suppose a real sort of, overwhelming amount of inter-county stars in their team. And you look at the dominance of Waterford, or not the dominance of Waterford, but I suppose the improvement of Waterford in the past couple of seasons. They've looked really, really good, haven't they? Getting to an All-Ireland final there 2 years ago, getting to an All-Ireland semi-final. So Waterford are tremendous. They're on the rise in hurling. They might be even number 2 to Limerick at the minute in terms of the All-Ireland hurling picture. And I think Ballygunner will benefit quite a lot from that. And the energy and the pace that they played with in that game versus Ballyhale, in my opinion, was frightening. And I don't see how Loughmore are going to deal with it, because Ballygunner had a bit of a long layoff coming into that game, but they look so fresh. It looked like they've been playing, weeks previous. And I think they have a clear goal, a clear vision. Look, they need to get through Munster. They have the players to do so. We know the talent that they have, as I said before, the energy that they play with, the pressing high up the pitch that I think is very, very impressive as well. And I think for Loughmore, more of a traditional hurling team, more of a traditional dual club in many ways. And, every week we're speaking about Loughmore Castleiney because of how well they've done in both football and hurling. And I think that's a massive, massive credit to them. But I think maybe this is where the story ends. I think this is maybe where Ballygunner end the story, because, look, you have to give Loughmore Castleiney so much credit for being in this position, the fact that they are playing week in, week out. And, they even went to extra time in the football championship last weekend against Aero Guinness, and you thought maybe they were going to put it off and maybe do the impossible again. But, if they're coming up against a Middleton or a Kilmallock, maybe it's they might have an opportunity there. But they're coming up against such a tough Ballygunner side. Very good Ballygunner team. Pacey, attacking-wise. They have the goals. They have the midfielders. Very experienced goalkeeper in Stephen O'Keefe. I just don't see anything other than a Ballygunner win. But if we've learned anything from Loughmore Castleiney in the past couple of weeks, in the past couple of months, is that they do not lie down. They stay with you until the final 70 minutes. And, maybe to use another boxing analogy, they're a very, that would be a hard boxer to finish. That'd be one of them that's going to stick with you for the 12 rounds or whatever it is. And Loughmore Castleiney are definitely that team that sticks with you until the final 70 minutes. And they're the type of team that gets better as the game goes on as well. They improve as the game goes on, and they make adjustments in games. I think their management has done very well as well in terms of substitutions. They know when to bring players like Brian McGrath on and whatnot to make a bit of an impact. But I think Ballygunner will have enough here. I think they'll win it by 4 points. I think it will be close to going down the home stretch, and then I think Ballygunner will maybe pull away. Maybe it will go to extra time again. Who knows? But I think Ballygunner will surely have enough to win this game, in my opinion. Middleton versus Kilmallock is the other game that's taken place in Munster, in the Munster semi-finals. And, for Kilmallock, it's been quite a story for them, of course, obviously coming through the Munster hurling champion, or coming through the Limerick hurling championship, getting that win over Patrickswell, a Patrickswell side that were very well fancied to get the victory that day. When you look at, for those who don't know, some of the players in the Patrickswell team include the likes of Keane Lynch, Aaron Galan, his brother Jason Galan, Jeremy Burns in there as well. So Kilmallock or Patrickswell have a whole host of very well-known inter-county stars, and Kilmallock turned them over. They were underdogs going into that game, and they got the better of them. They got the victory and a huge win, their first Munster hurling, or their first Limerick hurling championship in quite a couple of years. So for them to get that victory and get that win, speaks that they are a very good side. And maybe in some ways it's an interesting one with Kilmallock, because they don't have the inter-county stars. You'd think of a side coming through Limerick, maybe might have those inter-county stars. They don't necessarily have that. Graham Mulcahy is one player who in particular would stand out. Oisin O'Reilly and Aaron Costello have done very well for Kilmallock in the recent couple of weeks as well. But they're certainly not they're not blessed with a huge amount of inter-county stars, which, would lead you to believe that maybe, maybe they're going under the radar a little bit, and maybe they might be better than what people expect, because, a lot of those players would have been playing together throughout the league campaign. A lot of those players would have been, consistently playing throughout the championship. They know how to get the best out of each other. The management knows them pretty well as well. So, they're coming into this game with a lot of confidence. They will have been waiting in the wings for a while, though. There has been a bit of a layoff, about a 7-week layoff, I believe, since their last game in the Munster hurling or in the Limerick hurling championship. So they would have been waiting in the wings for a while. And Middleton coming in from Cork, Middleton are a good team. Like, Middleton are a very, very good team. They got the better of Glen Rovers in that final. Conor Lahan is absolutely shooting the lights out for Middleton at the minute. And whilst, they were coming up against the side Glen Rovers, which are probably a little bit over-reliant on Patrick Horgan, but Middleton have a whole host of players there that can really get the job done. They seem like more of a, whilst Conor Lahan is certainly their standout man and their main player and their marquee player, you'd have to say Ross O'Regan and Sean O'Mara have contributed as well. And to get that victory over Glen Rovers, to come through the semi-finals in the way that they did as well, they're looking good. They're looking very impressive. And I think maybe they're going a little bit under the radar, in my opinion. And that's why I feel like Middleton might just pull off the victory here. I think they'll be coming in a little bit fresher. From what I've seen from watching a little bit of the Limerick Hurling Championship and watching some highlights and whatnot, Middleton just look a little bit fresher. They look a little bit sharper, and I think that might be the punishment for Kilmallock. Could be horribly wrong. We've seen with club championships before, very hard to call, very hard to predict. I wouldn't have seen, it's not like I'm watching these two week in, week out, but if I was going to give a prediction, if I was going to put my neck on the line, which I always do when I make these channels, I'd go with Middleton to win after extra time. I think they will have enough. I do think ultimately Ballygunner should have enough to come through Munster in total. But I do think that it will be Middleton who will have enough there to come through, in my opinion. We'll move on to Ulster Senior Hurling Championship taking place this weekend. Slaughtneil, Dunloy, a repeat, I suppose, of the 2019 Ulster final, which of course was won by Slaughtneil. They won that by a scoreline of 115 to 110. I'm just going to take a sip of water here, actually. So yeah, Slaughtneil won that game by a scoreline of 115 to 110. And, Slaughtneil are one of those sides that always seem to come under the radar a little bit in Ulster hurling and also in the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. I think maybe because they come from Ulster, they kind of go under the radar. And there's been times where they've caught, big teams like Ballyhale and some other teams along the way as well. Very big dual club, as a lot of people would probably already know, with Chrissy McCaig and Brendan Rogers, some of the McGuigans in there as well, and Chris Cassidy, who's a very good hurler. So they have a very good mix of both footballers and hurlers in there. And maybe getting knocked out of the football championship by Waddy Graham's Glen will have maybe refocused them. They'll have had their focus on this game for a while. They'll have known that this game has been coming for quite a while as well. And they'll be coming into this with, a bit of confidence. 9 in a row champions in Derry, which I think is very, very impressive. They're a very experienced team, a veteran team. I was listening to what Brendan Rogers said during the week, and he was giving an interview on BBC, and he was basically saying that, look, their team is getting older in many ways. They certainly, they have a couple of players on who are getting over 30, but they have a very experienced side, and they've been there, they've done it, they've come through Derry a number of times, they've come through Ulster a number of times, and they certainly will have their eye most definitely on the All-Ireland, in my opinion. They'll obviously want to come through this game. Look, Dunloy are a very good side as well, and we've seen the rise of Antrim hurling in the past couple of years, and that is certainly one thing to watch out for. But I think Slaughtneil coming into this game, a lot of confidence, obviously having won 9 in a row, and as I said before, with Chrissy McCaig in there and some of the other lads, they're definitely a team to watch out for. And you would expect that the winner of this game would probably come through Ulster. With all due respect, it's Ballycran of Down who are actually waiting in the final, and I wouldn't know a whole deal about them in all honesty, to be perfectly honest. But you would feel that the winner of this game will probably go on and win Ulster, because usually it is the side from Derry or Antrim who goes on to win the Ulster Senior Hurling Championship. Speaking of Dunloy, though, you can't sleep on them, in my opinion. And they're, in some people's eyes, they're probably going in maybe as the favourites there. With Conal Cunning, Sean Elliott, Paul Shields is a notable inter-county start from the Antrim hurlers that a lot of people would know of. Kilmallock has looked very impressive in there as well. They're probably the younger team. They're probably the fresher team. They're probably coming into that with a little bit, a little bit more confidence. But it is a hard one to call, and it's probably one of those games that realistically I can't really predict because I'd be lying if I told you I've watched a lot of Slaughtneil and Dunloy in Ulster down the years. I did see that game in 2019, and Slaughtneil just comfortably won that game and were by far the better side. But Dunloy have certainly kicked on another level since then. Maybe you could argue that Slaughtneil are getting a little bit older, and maybe Dunloy might be able to catch Slaughtneil, but it is a tough one to call. If I had to put my neck on the line, I'd probably go with the experience of Slaughtneil because I've been there and seen them do it. I've seen them win those games. I've seen them come through these games. Whereas Dunloy still, they still need to kick on maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to go with Slaughtneil to win it by a point. It is a tough one to call. It is a hard one to call. And look, it'll be one of those games that I'm looking forward to watching, no doubt about it. But yeah, I think Slaughtneil will just about have enough, in my opinion. There, I think their experience will be the big difference, in my opinion. But we'll move on and we'll discuss the only football game actually of the weekend. Mountbellew Moylough are taking on Padraig Pearses. This game was obviously supposed to be 2 weeks ago. I even previewed the game 2 weeks ago in my preview show. And then the game was postponed due to a COVID outbreak within the Mountbellew Moylough squad. I'm not too sure the whole ins and outs of whether players might be missing for this game, or whether the team has got full training in, or what the kind of circumstances are centered around that. But we've seen obviously before with these outbreaks and different squads, they can have damning effects, and teams might need to pull out of championships, or it doesn't make a difference at all. Look at Tyrone, for example, in the All-Ireland semi-final, who beat Kerry, of course. So it's one of them where you just don't know the ins and outs, and you don't know how serious it is amongst players and whatnot. And hopefully, anyways, Mountbellew Moylough can field their strongest team. They have their best players on the pitch, because I do think sometimes when this disease kind of interferes and I suppose prevents teams from playing their best teams, it kind of ruins the whole integrity of the competition in many ways. So hopefully Mountbellew Moylough have a full squad there to choose from. But in terms of the game itself, like it is a tricky game for Mountbellew Moylough. It's a bit of a banana skin, a bit of a tough test. And especially considering what I said before, the outbreak within their team, they're going to come into this with probably a little bit, maybe a little bit flat. I'm not too sure how well they would have been training over the past couple of weeks. The good news for them is that Padraig Pearses have had a long time to wait as well for this game. A long time ago that they came through the Roscommon Senior Football Championship. They've been waiting in the wings for this game for quite a while. I suppose the battle of the Dailies in there. You have the Dailies of Padraig Pearses, and then obviously you have the likes of Michael Daly in there for Mountbellew Moylough, Conor Daly in for Padraig Pearses. Obviously no relation between the both of them, I don't think, but Daly is just it is a popular second name to have, I suppose. But for Mountbellew Moylough, like we've seen the talent that they have when they came through Corofin, of Owen Finnerty, Joseph Kelly in there as well. So like they're a very, very well-rounded side. Their midfield of Colin Barrett in there is very impressive. So for me, they have the talent, or Colin Ryan, I should say, a wing back, and Shane Barrett in midfield. Mix them names up sometimes, but they have the players in there for me to come through this. I think Padraig Pearses will make it difficult though. I think it'll be low scoring. I doubt this game will be highly entertaining. I think it will be a bit of a dogfight, a bit of a slugfest in many ways. And I think Mountbellew Moylough will just have to outwork Padraig Pearses, outfight them. I can imagine Padraig Pearses would set up quite defensively and try and lure Mountbellew onto them and then hit them on the break, because that's what they done in the final versus Clan-na-Gael, and I don't expect them to do any different in this game. But I would expect Mountbellew to have enough. It's a tough one to call because, again, we don't know the extent of the COVID outbreak within the Mountbellew Moylough side. We don't know what players are missing, injured, or not going to play, or whether they've trained or not. But if it was a full strength Mountbellew Moylough side, I'd go with them to win it by 2 or 3. I think they just about have enough to squeeze through it. But as we've seen before, these games can be very, very close, and you only have to look at the Knockmore Turlestrand game to know how close that was. It was only 2 points in that, and Turlestrand were very, very close to pull it off the shock there. So yeah, I think Mountbellew Moylough will just about get enough out of themselves here to win this game by 2 points. But for Padraig Pearses, they are a team going under the radar a little bit. You know, they did make the Connacht final the last time around 2 years ago. And they have been building, and a lot of the teams that come through Roscommon tend to do quite well. It was only, 6 or 7 years ago that St. Bridget's went all the way and won the All-Ireland. So, you can't discount Padraig Pearses, but I'm going to go with Mountbellew Moylough to grind out a 2-point victory in this game. But yeah, I suppose that very much wraps it up. Running through the club action for this weekend in both hurling and football. Let me know some of your predictions in the comments down below. Let me know some of your picks, of course, as well. And yeah, very exciting action, a lot of very exciting action happening this weekend. So stay tuned for more videos. There won't be any live match reactions out this weekend, as I'm going away to Liverpool for the weekend. So I won't be around to do any reactions, but there will be a show, of course, coming out Monday, as always. And we're going to be starting our season previews now as well for the 2022 inter-county season. So we're going to be getting a whole host of fans from Donegal, Mayo, Galway, Dublin, Derry, Down. We're going to be getting fans from all across the country, journalists, ex-players, whatnot, to come on, preview their county ahead of the upcoming 2022 inter-county season. And I recorded the first one last night with Patrick Sharkey of the GAA Zone podcast, passionate Donegal fan. So we're going to be discussing all things Donegal tomorrow on the show. So make sure you tune in for that one. Full 1 hour preview of Donegal moving into the 2022 inter-county season. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be recording my thoughts on the All-Stars as well, that of course were announced today. So that'll be out a little bit later today. Certainly some interesting choices in there in terms of the 2020 or the 2021 All-Stars and hurling. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more videos. Make sure to check out Declan Kirby GAA Star in the description down below. Great sponsors of the channel, sponsors of the page. Great present to get a niece or a nephew coming up to Christmas, of course, as well. And also great for children to get involved in the GAA, and a brilliant piece of education in GAA. Combines the both. What more could you want there? So stay tuned for all that. Stay tuned for more previews, more videos coming soon. My name is Aaron, and I will see you all in the next one.